that point. And then that's when I realized that things had to change, because it was just a continuous cycle. You know, I get clean for a little while and go back and get clean, go back. I think the most I ever had was almost 6 years, and I went back out.
Welcome to another edition of Recovery Happens. My name is Patrick Patterson with BW Rock, where we strive to reduce the stigma of addiction one episode at a time. Today we're going to be sitting down with Eric as he offers hope to encourage recovery.
Well, life for me growing up as a child was great. I grew up in a single parent home. It's 5 brothers, well 4 brothers, and me it's 5 boys, so it was kind of rambunctious there. But it was really great. I grew up in southwestern Detroit. Grew up in the area or on the block that was very ethnically diverse, so I got a chance to see the world without even really traveling. You know, it was great to, as a child, to experience different cultures, different foods, different languages, and those things at an early age. I think it helped me to become the person I am today as far as dealing with people. But yeah, like I said, it was a dysfunctional family, but all in all, Pat, it was very good. I had a very good childhood. It came to a point where I really didn't know I was poor until I ventured outside of my neighborhood and seen how other people were living. And that's how I really realized that, well, maybe we don't have it as great as other people, but I still had an enjoyable childhood. I started using at an early age. I started smoking marijuana at 14. So by the time I got to 25, I started doing cocaine, and I started smoking crack about a year and a half after that. When I realized that I really had a problem, man, when I was in a basement, in an abandoned basement, I can hear rats and everything running around, and I wanted to stop, but I couldn't. You know, I'm sitting in this basement with a crack pipe in one hand and, you know, crying to help me stop, and I couldn't stop. And it was just a continuous thing. And from that point, I realized I had a problem. My demeanor changed, my dress changed, how I treated other people changed, how I felt about myself changed. And I knew from that point that something was very wrong. Well, in 2001, I had a child. And 2 years prior to that, I had stopped using. So I was doing very well, man. What happened is my significant other wound up going back out and taking our child to a dope house. And then she left my child with someone else. So I wound up going through the courts and fighting for custody to get my daughter back. And so I got custody, and I was doing very well. Then after a while, I was working a lot of hours, and it just became very overwhelming at times to just life in itself. After I start to get things going with her and taking care of her, then it, like I said, became overwhelming. I went back to using. I started back using, and once I started back using, I wound up losing her to the system. Once I lost her to the system, it was just a continuous thing. I got her back, and then I lost her again. And this last time I went out, this was in 2010, I left her over at a friend's house for a whole week. They haven't heard from me or anything. The news was called. They thought I had perished and, you know, something happened to me. And I went through the court system, and I lost her. You know, I lost her to I'm grateful that my brother, you know, stepped up and took care of her, but I lost her at that point. And then that's when I realized that things had to change, because it was just a continuous cycle. You know, I get clean for a little while and go back and get clean, go back. I think the most I ever had was almost 6 years, and I went back out. And at that point, Patrick, I realized that I had to change. I had to do something. I had to get honest with myself. And fortunately, I was staying with my brother. He really didn't want me to be there. My younger brother, who's schizophrenic, he really didn't want me to be there. And he was connected with a program. And one of the people in the program, I gained rapport with her. And my brother told her about my situation. And I was really pissed at him for a while. But then after the long run, I looked at it again. I was very grateful that he did tell. She got me into Sacred Heart. And that was back in 2011. Life has been great, and since I got into recovery, especially long-term recovery, you know, it's been amazing. It's just a total flip, you know. It's to a point where I have freedom now. I don't have to. I'm not out there chasing a drug. I'm not out there feeling bad about myself. I'm not running from anyone. I'm not hiding. I'm not staying in the house and only coming out at night when I don't think there's anyone out there who would know me. Times have changed to a point where I changed inside, internally. See, because I used to base everything on what was going on outside, externally. That's how I validated myself, by having a car, a house, a lady, and those things. But once I got into recovery and I realized that this is my final straw, I better do what I need to do now or I'm not going to make it. Jail's, institution, or death is those three choices we have, and I was going to wind up dying. So 2011, I wind up getting into Sacred Heart, and I got into a 3-quarter house, and man, it's the most beautiful thing that could ever happen to me in my life. I'm living the life today that I would never have imagined that I would live, and it's a great feeling to be free, and that's what it is. It's like being released from jail. I was self-prison, that's where I was at, and to be released from that it's unbelievable.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Recovery Happens. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, please give us a call at 888-68-BWROC. We'd like to thank our sponsor, The Hallway Entertainment.